take it away.
All right. Thank you, Nalin. Thank you, everyone, for being present. My name is Mariam. I'm sorry, I've got a cold. Um, and I'm the founder of Parenthèse. I'm here with Alex, our director. We're going to be speaking to you about paid internships in the US. You have all of our contact details on the screen. We're a small family business set up in Paris, in the center of Paris. We're going to give you a lot of information today. It's going to go pretty quickly. Please keep all of your questions at the end. We're going to answer them one by one, whether you want to put it in the chat or turn your microphones on. And of course, you can contact us by phone or by email, as you see on the screen. So before we get started, the first thing you need to know is that in order to do an internship in the US, you need a proper internship visa. It is illegal to do an internship in the US with an ESTA or a tourism visa. The only exception to that rule is for people who might want to do their internships in the UN. And I don't know if there's anybody today who's interested in that, but in that case, you might be able to do your internship with a B1, B2 visa or an ESTA. But in all other cases, you do need this J1 intern or J1 trainee visa. Now, we do realize that when you see the word visa in the United States in the same paragraph, all alarm bells go off. There's really no reason for that. There are over 100 different visas available for the US. American visas are alphabetical. Most letters of the alphabet have a corresponding visa, and most visas have subcategories. So we end up with over 100 different visas for the US. And there are some that are long to obtain or they're difficult to obtain. It's not the case for J1 visas, which are very easy to get. There's no refusal of J1 visa, but there is one caveat is that you do need to go through what we call an official sponsor. The sponsor is not your employer in the US in 99.9% of the cases. It's not your school in the UK. It's not friends or family that you could have in the US. It's really a third-party organization that is set up in America and that has a contract with the US Department of State. So we are the representative of some of these sponsors, namely CIEE, which is set up in Portland, Maine, and we represent them in the countries that you see on the right side of the screen. We can take actually applicants from any country, any nationality. And the reason why we have chosen CIE as our main sponsor is that they are the oldest and largest sponsor of J1 visas. They were set up in 1947. They were part of the Marshall Plan. And they've brought already over 1 million foreigners into the US on J1 programs. We have represented them in France and in the UK. Well, in France since end of 2004, in the UK a bit later on. We've already helped over 36,000 participants leave on these programs. All of this to just tell you that this is a totally feasible project. It's financially viable, and it's a lot easier to put in place than what you might think. So please put aside everything that you might have heard about the US and the visas, and when people talk to you about nightmares of visa obtention for the US. We're going to start with a clean slate, and we hope that you'll feel a bit more, how do you say?
Reassured.
Reassured, yes, thank you, about your program at the end of this presentation. 2 words on the role of the sponsor. We're not just here to give you a piece of paper so that you can apply for your US visa. Of course, you will have all of the official paperwork from us, but we have other responsibilities vis-a-vis yourselves, the embassy, and your employer. First thing that we do is to confirm the cultural exchange aspect of your program. We want to make sure that well, of course, now, you're all English speakers, but let's say, I don't know, if you're a Chinese student, you can absolutely work for a Chinese company in the US if you wish to, but we want to see that that your place of work is English speaking, that you have access to American colleagues or clients. The whole goal of these programs is for you guys to see the business world in the US and not just replicate what you could have in your home country. We will do the verification of your application, both your part and your employer's part, which is called the training plan, or in our jargon, the DS 7002. That's the name and the number of the form that you have to fill out, or the employer has to fill out. And we will do a site visit of your employer if necessary. You will have access to a 24/7 support system in the US. So if you have any problems or questions, there's always somebody accessible. And last but not least, you will be fully insured with us through the insurance of our sponsor. With CIE, it's through Aetna, and you will be insured up to $1 million. So please do be careful about this aspect of your program. I know that $1 million seems a bit over the top probably to you guys, but don't look at your American project with your British or foreign references. Nothing will be the same. You'll see in a few minutes that you'll be much better paid in the US than you might be in England or anywhere else. However, there are costs that are higher, namely anything that has to do with the health system. So please do be careful about this point. Step number one of your project is the verification of your eligibility. Now, you'll see some websites that will encourage you to take tests. There's absolutely no reason for anybody to take a test. You're all here. You're all eligible regardless of your nationality. So you have all of the criteria on our website. We're not going to go through them one by one. The most important things are on the screen. So you need to be at least 18, and there's no age limit for these programs. We have people in their 40s and 50s who leave with us on these J1 programs. Your internship has to have a direct correlation with your field and your level of study. You have to work a minimum of 32 hours per week, knowing that most internships are 40 hours per week. And you can apply for J1 visas as many times as you wish to in your lifetime. There's no quota or restriction as with the working holiday visas, for example, for Canada or for Australia. Do be careful, please, with the eligibility criteria for the employer. Again, you will have all of the details on our website. One thing I'd like to pay attention to is that your employer has to have a physical office space in the US. We want you to actually get out of your apartment, go to a place of work, meet people, talk to people. The goal of these programs is not for you to be stuck in a tiny apartment in New York City in front of your computer, which you can do from where you're sitting at right now. Remote work is only allowed in the maximum of 2 days per week, and that's it. Okay. In order to do an internship or placement in the US, there are two different visas possible. Both of them are J1 visas, but two different subcategories of the J1. For those of you who are current students, or those of you who will be recent graduates of less than 12 months at the time of departure, you will be eligible for the J1 intern visa that allows you to work 12 months maximum at each participation. If you already have a diploma, and you have a minimum of 12 months of professional experience in your field, then you'll be eligible for the J1 trainee visa, which allows you to work 18 months maximum at each participation. So basically, the maximum duration of stay in the US is the main difference between these two visas. And some of you might be eligible for both. If, for example, if you're a master's student, you already have a bachelor's degree and you've worked 12 months in your field, then you're eligible for both. Step number 2 of your program is the employer search. Now, we are not a placement agency. You're not going to send us your CV and just wait for us to show up with an employer. Honestly, for the US, you can do it yourself for free. The job search should not cost you anything, and we're going to show you how to do it today. But before starting to apply left, right, and center, please do take minimum a weekend. Sorry, I can't breathe. To draft the documents that you see on the screen. Your CV, your cover letter, which is very specific to these programs, and your LinkedIn profile. Let's just take a quick look at each of them. So your CV, which we call a resume in the US, no photo, no date of birth, no personal information. This is done for discrimination purposes. The employer is supposed to give you an appointment without knowing your age or height, the color of your hair, etc. Now, we do realize that this is a bit ironical because on your LinkedIn profile, you probably have a photo, but just be aware that in the US, certain companies are extremely strict as to the application of this non-discrimination law. So their HR department will not even allow them to contact anybody who sent a CV with a photo on it. Other companies are not as strict, but since you will not know the internal policies of every company you're going to be writing to, just don't take the risk of seeing your application go straight to trash and just take off this information from your CV. Please do include as many live links as possible on your CV. Don't forget that you're talking to somebody in a different country who doesn't have the same references as you. So something that might seem really obvious to you might not be as obvious to an American employer. So you will have to explain a lot more than if you were looking for an internship in the UK, where you just give the name of your school, your diploma, and people can situate you pretty easily. If you're a first-year student with no job experience, don't be shy. Do put down anything you've done during your summer breaks, as a student, even if it doesn't have anything to do with your future professional objectives. We don't want to see a CV with just a list of schools and diplomas on it. I mean, it's fabulous that you've studied, but we want to see what you've done outside of your educational courses. Always put your CV as a PDF format, please, never as a Word document. And the most important thing on this slide is the following sentence: J1 visa candidate will not require visa sponsorship. This sentence, you'll have to write it and say it until you're blue in the face. You have to put it on your CV, on your letter, on your LinkedIn profile. You have to say it orally to the employer during the interview, and we'll explain why in a few seconds. So please do take the time also to make all of your documents look super professional. There shouldn't be any mistakes. It should be easy to read, etc. Your cover letter in English, if you already have one, I will unfortunately ask you to put it aside. It's not going to be the cover letter that you're going to be using in order to find an internship in the US. We have an example on our website. Please use that one. You'll see the link on the screen here. Just click on it. This is what your first email to your potential US employers should look like. This email has nothing to do with your typical cover letter. You're not going to be talking about yourself that much. You're not going to go into details about why you're so fabulous, why the employer should hire you and not the person sitting next to you. All of that will come later. The only purpose of this letter is to reassure your potential employers as to your legal status in the US. And you're doing that in the paragraphs that are in bold, which I'm going to ask you to please copy and paste without changing a single word. Now, the first paragraph, you're just going to adapt it to your case without writing a novel. You're just going to briefly explain who you are, what you're looking for as an internship, and give some dates, and that's it. The paragraphs in bold are the most important. You're saying to the employers that if your profile interests them, you will be arriving in the US with your J1 visa in hand and your sponsor. So in between the lines, it means that the US employer does not have to hire an immigration attorney, pay them maybe $20,000, $30,000 to perhaps in a year or two obtain a work permit for you. You'll arrive legally, they can hire you legally, and they can pay you legally without having to do any sort of formality with the US immigration. So basically, it's pretty easy for them. The only thing they have to do is to fill out the training plan online, which will take them maybe 20 to 30 minutes of their time, and that's it. You continue by saying that all of your insurance is covered in your program, so your employer will not have to provide you with a health package of their company should they have one. So you're saving them a lot of time, hassle, paperwork, money. Also, as J1 visa participants, you might be exempt from two taxes, namely the Social Security tax and the Medicare tax, the federal unemployment tax. And so will the employer. So there are fiscal advantages for an American employer to hire you as a foreign intern rather than hiring an American intern. That's the plain truth. You're not going to say it in those words, which will be very politically incorrect. That's why we ask you to please copy and paste the paragraphs in bold without changing anything. But it is a lot of savings for the American employer. And you will just end by saying that they'll also be contributing to the US public diplomacy efforts. There are some employers that like to put that forward in their community, so it doesn't hurt to say it. So once again, please use this letter that you find on our website. We know that nobody likes it because it's cut and dry. You're not talking about yourself, you're not selling yourself, as we say, but all of that will come later. And if you don't give this legal information to your employer from the word go, you'll just never get to the point where you can actually talk about your project and what you want to do in the US. And if you're going to be doing spontaneous applications, you put the letter in the cover and in the body of your email and your resume as an attachment. Last thing, your LinkedIn profile. I imagine that you all have one. Please, if you're looking in the US, add the sentence J1 visa candidate will not require visa sponsorship on your profile, on your where your photo is, or in the summary section of your LinkedIn. And it's really only once these three documents have been drafted and verified and reread that you can start your job search. Now, every year at Palantes, we help between 1,500 and 2,500 people leave on these programs. And the vast majority of our participants find their own paid internships with the help of their school, with our help for free, with the websites that Alex is going to show you. Last year, only a small minority, less than 3%, went through what we call placement agencies. You can do whatever you want. If you want to pay somebody for that organization to find you an employer in the US, you can do that. But I think the numbers speak for themselves. You really don't need to do that in the US. You can really do it yourself with a little bit of effort and time.
Yeah, thank you. And honestly, please use that as a last resort. There is no need for you to pay anybody. Our partner sponsor, CIE, has put in or developed a placement service that they're trying to sell, and it seems to work quite well in the UK, unfortunately, because we see it all the time. Most of our participants don't need this help. So, what I recommend you do is start by using your network. We've looked at our statistics, and we had two participants from Lancaster University in recent years that left with us. This is just an example, of course, and just a couple of companies that have hosted some of your previous classmates. You can always check out their careers pages, look at their websites. You know that there are companies that have used J1 visas before, that have used our services before, and have hired people with your exact background, your university, recently enough. So that's always a good place to start. But otherwise, there's tons of websites that work really well. What I recommend you do is start by playing around with keywords on search engines. Websites like Indeed.com, which I'm sure you've heard of, Glassdoor, social media accounts like LinkedIn, but even Facebook has a few J1 visa centered groups, so do have a look. I'm really going to walk you through the steps of applying to offers using a couple of these websites so you have a really clear idea of how to go about this project. And the first example I'm going to show you is this website called Glassdoor. And it is a perfectly free search engine. As you can see, there's a couple of search bars. You're, of course, going to adapt them to your situation. I know you're not all looking for internships in marketing, but that's the beauty of these websites is you can really check out the type of companies that are hiring in your field of study, in your line of work, gauge what kind of or just have an idea of where you want to go, see what kind of salaries you should expect as an intern in the US in that particular field. So anyway, it's a good place to start your employer search. The second search bar, as you can see, is asking you where you want to work. I completely understand if you have a preference for, say, Miami or San Francisco. Those are two cities that come up a lot. We always like to remind people that there are 50 states to work with. The US is a huge country with literally millions of companies that are hiring. So try not to close doors, especially at the beginning of your employer search. So anyway, I clicked on search, and on the next page, you can see all your all the offers that match your search criteria on the left-hand side of the screen. If you click on one of them, you'll find more information on the qualifications required for the position, the salary, the content of the job or the job description, of course, and so on. So very intuitive to use. Also, I apologize. My browser defaults to French, so some of the text on the screenshots is in French. But anyway, I found this internship at Boeing for next summer in marketing and sales. So let's pretend that this is something you're interested in. What I recommend you do before even considering applying is to make sure that Boeing pays their interns. And Glassdoor is very well done. You can click on the salaries tab that's at the in the top right corner and really check the average salary for an intern for such and such company. And here, as you can see, the average salary for an intern in marketing and business, okay, at Boeing is around $50,000 a year. This may seem too good to be true. I'm not sure how much people are generally paid as interns around Lancaster, but these are figures that we see every day in our office. And of course, we realize this is much higher than what typically interns are paid in Europe. One of the reasons for that, however, is that life in the United States, and that's especially true for cities like Miami, New York City, or San Francisco, is also more expensive than life in Europe. So just as a reference here, I went on this website called Expatistan, which I recommend you use, but I put in the difference between the cost of living in the US and France, just to give you a rough idea, but we're talking about something like 20% more expensive over there. And look at the category called housing. That one is important, of course, since it will impact your program. The cost of housing over there is about 46% more than here. Just to put things into perspective, we're talking about two very different countries. The UK is not the US and vice versa. And there are things to consider simply because you're free to accept whatever you want. There is no salary or um, compensation requirement as part of these visa programs or our application form. But we don't want you to accept something that looks good on paper with your current references, only to find yourself in downtown San Francisco to keep using that as an example and realize that, yeah, $3,000 is good, but not as good as if you were living in Lancaster. So do take those parameters into account before you even apply. We just don't want you to be in a difficult financial situation in the US. Once you've done your budget using these couple of tools and websites, you can then apply to internships you're interested in. So the process is always identical. You're going to click on apply. You'll always be redirected to the company's careers page, on which you'll find more information about the job itself and instructions to send your application through. Typically, you'll need to create an account with a username, password. You all know how to do that. Answer a couple of questions about yourself, your background, your job experience, if you have any. Upload your resume, a cover letter, if that's even asked of you. It's not always the case. But there are two trick questions that you'll see every single time you apply for positions in the US. The first of these questions is this one. It's asking you if you are eligible or authorized to work in the United States. Please answer yes to that question. And though I know that nobody here listening to us today currently has a visa for the US, and that's perfectly normal. You first need to secure your employer before you start the admin process to apply for a visa, which is why this question might not be that obvious to you. You're simply answering yes to reassure the employer, just as we were saying in our cover letter example, as to the fact that you'll be arriving to the United States with your visa in hand and therefore will be legal in America. This is, again, super important. No employer will want to spend the time and money to get you a work permit for the US, which is why you need to tell them that you will be legal in the US at the very start of the process once you start applying. Just to give you another example, we went on LinkedIn. It's way more than your online resume. It's one of the answers we hear the most when we ask our candidates how they've secured their placements in the U.S., which is why it's really important to spend a good weekend working on your profile. Try to make it as complete as possible. Try to follow the employers you're interested in. It's also a good tool to follow up on applications that you send to employers using the messaging app within LinkedIn. It's really an effective tool to find recruiters, HR departments for the companies you want to work for, and really try to follow up like that. Once you've really made sure your profile was as up to date as possible, you can click on that little suitcase at the top. You'll find the same search bars. Of course, you're going to adapt them to your situation, but as for a change, I put in business development internships, still in the United States, but you can put whatever city you want to work in. We found a couple hundred results this time, namely this one that looked very interesting at NVIDIA in California. So I just went to Glassdoor once again to make sure that an intern at NVIDIA gets paid. It was the case once again, and very well. And so same process, you click on apply, you'll be redirected to the company's page where you'll find the instructions to apply and more information about the job. And that's really it. So it should really take you a few minutes of your time per application. At this stage, there's no need to adapt or update your cover letter and based on the company you're targeting. Just apply using the cover letter we showed you. It's really reassuring the employer as to your legal status that really matters at this stage of your project. Um, Another application, or sorry, another method of finding your own internship in the US is to send spontaneous applications. That's probably the most effective way, I would say. So simply go to Google, look up the name of the company you want to work for, followed by the keywords internship United States, for example. I put in IBM as a random example. I went on their US website. Be careful to not go to the .co.uk website, but really the US page. And once you're on there, you're going to look for a tab that's called Careers. Join us, contact us, or simply the email address of the HR department to whom you can write, as we showed you previously, with your resumes and attachments. So on IBM's website, it was very well done. I could filter by internship offers that were currently available. There were tons, not just for IT and engineers students, but in all sorts of fields. So anyway, I looked up a data science, data analysis one that only required you be a high school graduate, currently pursuing a bachelor's. So I think everybody here can apply. It was very well paid. I clicked on apply. Same process. I just needed to log in or create an account, upload my resume, fill in a couple of fields as you can see on the screenshot here. And once again, I saw these two trick questions come up. So the first one we saw, you are legally authorized to work in America. The second one that you'll encounter is asking you if you'll need a sponsor to work in the US. Now, please answer no, simply because of course, you do need a sponsor to get your visa, but it will not be your employer who will not have the resources or the time or the money to do so. It'll be us if you decide to go through us. On the offer itself here, IBM was really nice in this instance. They were telling you very explicitly that they will not be providing visa sponsorship. So in this case, they gave you the answer beforehand, but it's not always going to be the case. Make sure, please, to answer these questions correctly. Otherwise, your applications will go straight to trash. And please follow up with your employers as much as you can. I know it's difficult when you're using websites like Indeed or other search engines, but as much as you can, try to use LinkedIn or your network and try to email those employers until you get a response. And it's really once you hit that job interview stage of the process that the magic needs to happen. As we said, you're not going to talk so much about yourself in the cover letter. It's really during your interview that it will be your time to shine. So please ask questions, communicate your enthusiasm about the prospect of joining that company in the US and working for them. Smile. I mean, this is important in the US. We want to feel like you're interested in what the company does and that you're just enthusiastic about the idea of going there. Put yourself in the shoes of your employer. Of course, they want to make sure that you're qualified for the position, but they also want to make sure you're a good fit with the rest of their team on site, that you're going to be a good fit with the company's culture and so on. So please ask questions. You'll see that the tone of the interview in the US is a lot less formal than what we're used to as Europeans, or honestly, pretty much anywhere else in the world from my experience. So don't be shocked by that. And do remember you're talking to what is potentially your future manager. But again, try to ask questions, show your enthusiasm. That's really important. One thing that's also expected of you is to send a thank you email after each interview that you do. So we're not asking for a novel, of course, but do take a second to say thanks for your time and consideration. I look forward to hearing back from you. That will go a long way. If you do not do that, the employer is going to think, well, interesting candidate, but not very professional, and it can just leave a negative last impression with the employer. So just don't forget to do that. Lastly, we are here to assist you in your job search too. We're not a placement agency, as we said, so this is a service that we provide for free. It doesn't engage in parentes either. But if you're not quite sure where to start your employer search, just write us an email with your resume as an attachment. Tell us what you're interested in, and you can just say I'm at Lancaster University looking for an internship in engineering, for example. We'll look at our database to see what kind of companies hired people in your field of study, not just from Lancaster University, but all universities we partner with in Europe. And we'll provide you a list of these companies, as well as give you a few tips and pointers on how to make sure your resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile are up to date. And it's only once you've accepted an offer from a company that you can then come back to us for step number 3.
Yes, thank you. And step number 3 is actually filling out the application with us. So we'll give you access to the online portal of our sponsor. You'll fill out your part of the application, the employer will fill out their part, and it should really not take either one of you more than about half an hour maximum to fill out this application. It's pretty straightforward, and we're here to help both you and your employer if you need instruction on how to go about it. From the time you start the application process with us to the day that you will get your official paperwork from us, you should count on 3 weeks. There are timeframes that are shorter, but they're more expensive, so please don't wait until the last minute to start the process with us. During those 3 weeks where we're going to be doing the vetting of your application, and so will the sponsor, we will give you all of the instructions for your appointment at the U.S. consulate in the UK, in London. And the interview at the embassy is going to be short and sweet. They're not more than 2 minutes with a consular officer. They will ask you the questions that you see on screen. They want to make sure that you're applying for the correct visas for what you're going to be doing in the US. And since June 2025, you have to make sure that your social media profiles are public, please, on the day of your interview. So if you have a private Instagram profile, you have to turn it on private for the day of the interview. On public, and then you can switch it back to private afterwards. And you will get your visa within 48 hours or between 3 and 5 days. Excuse me. So the whole process is going to take about 4 weeks from the time you start the application process with us to the day that you can take the plane to the US. So it's pretty easy. Before starting on the next subject, which is your budget, just one thing that we would like you to be aware of is that in most cases for the J1 intern or trainee programs, it is the employers that pay all our fees and the embassy fees. This is not an obligation on the part of the US employer, but it's something that's very common. We see it every day. There's not a day at the office where we don't issue an invoice in the name of the American employer who pays us directly by wire transfer or by credit card. So please negotiate this with your employer. The fees that you see on the screen are the same that are on our website. This is for the intern program. They vary between 1 and 14 months. You can do internships anywhere between 3 weeks and 12 months, and you can always arrive 30 days before and stay 30 days afterwards if you wish to. Included in our tariffs are everything that you see on the right side of the screen. So all the official paperwork, the fees that we pay to the US government on your behalf, the application fee, the full insurance, the site visit, the 24/7 hotline, etc. The only thing that's not included in our tariffs are the MRV fees, which are $185 at this point. We've come up with 2 examples of budgets for a 3-month program and a 6-month program. So for 3 months, it's 1,642, roughly with the exchange rate right now, it's 1,443 pounds. And for 6 months, it's 2,047 euros. That includes everything except, of course, your airline tickets and your fees on site. We've taken a look at the average salaries of our participants. So last year, an undergrad student's average salary was $1,500 per month. Undergrad, first year, second year student. And then afterwards, it went up to like $2,500 per month or more. And the average salary for Lancaster University participants was $3,964 per month. And all of the fees were covered by the employers. So not only they did not have anything to pay up front, but they also got really good salaries on site. So once again, it's a program that is absolutely financially feasible and viable if you don't accept whatever comes your way just to say yes to an offer. Okay, so first you negotiate the content of your internship, your salary. Once that's okay with you, if the employer doesn't talk about paying the 2,000 euros or whatever parentheses and visa fees, just bring up the subject. Just say, thank you so much for the offer. Super excited. I just wanted to let you know I've got 2,000 euros to pay to the sponsor. That includes my visa, my sponsorship, all of my health insurance. Would you be willing to contribute to that? You're just asking a question. You're not demanding anything. You're not saying I'm worth this or I'm worth that. It's just a question. The employer has the right to say yes or no. And you have the right to also decline the offer by saying, great that I get whatever, almost $4,000 per month on site, but I don't have 2,000 euros, for example, to pay upfront. You'll see that honestly, most often employers are super willing to go out of their way to make sure that this happens and to help you out. Just a quick recap before we wrap things up. First thing you do is you draft your letter, your CV, your LinkedIn profile with the instructions that we just gave you. You can contact us at any time during this process. There are certain people who contact us by just saying, I just want to go to Miami. I have no idea what I want to do. I don't know where to start. There are other people who only contact us once they found their employer. So up to you. We're available. If you want to do your own employer search without our help, you can do that. Once you find your employer, that's when you contact us to start the procedure. We'll give you access to the online portal of our sponsor. You will fill out the application. Your employer will do the same. We will verify the application in Paris. Once it's okay with us, we'll send it for the final verification to the US. Once it's okay with the sponsor, they will issue the official paperwork that you will need to apply for your visa. We will give you all of the instructions for your visa interview, and you go to the consulate for the interview, you get your visa. The last thing is the purchase of your airline ticket. So please don't do things in the reverse order. And if you do wish to reserve an airline ticket before having your visa, make sure that the ticket is modifiable and refundable, because this is not a tourism project. You're not just thinking, oh, well, it would be great to spend whatever New Year's Eve in Los Angeles. I'm going to book my ticket and then get an Airbnb. This project involves 3 different entities that are totally independent at different times of the procedure. So first of all, Parenthèse in Paris, then the sponsor in the US, and then finally the US Embassy. And none of us have any power over the other. So things could look fine for us on paper. We can send it to the US. The sponsor could say, well, we need some more clarifications from the employer, or we need to do a site visit, which is going to take maybe another day. So we can never guarantee a starting date, or else it could be, everything could be fine for both of us, and the US Embassy could possibly not have any appointments on the day that you want. So anyway, all of this, so you have to have some flexibility on your departure date. So make sure that your tickets are refundable or modifiable.
And very quickly before we take questions and let you go, just to backtrack a little bit, we just talked about professional placement programs. So these were just opportunities that align with your field of study and your career aspirations and objectives. But if instead of working, say, in marketing, if you're a marketing student, you just want to go to the US and have a fun summer, maybe as a group of friends, and just work in small seasonal jobs, so summer jobs, maybe in tourism, hospitality, work in restaurants or gift shops in the national park, things like that. Then there's another visa that's very specifically designed for these types of experiences called the work and travel visa. It's still J1 visa, of course. And it works in very similar fashion. You first find your summer job, then you apply through a sponsor of your choice, so with us, for example, and then you go to the embassy to get your visa. You're all eligible to this program as well, as long as you're between 18 and 30 years old at the time of departure and are a full-time student. You can work as students in the United Kingdom. You can work for 4 months maximum between June 1st and September 30th. And for a minimum of 1 month at least. Okay, so I know that program is pretty popular in the United Kingdom. So if you're interested in that, I'm not going to talk too much about it right now, but feel free to email us or give us a call, and we'll be happy to give you more information on a one-on-one basis. Now we can take questions if there are any in the chat, or I'll let Nolene maybe read them out. It's up to you guys. Let's see.
We've not had any questions yet, but I think, and thank you for covering all of that information. I know that visas can seem quite a daunting process, but to have that wraparound support, I think, is really encouraging for students to know that, getting that experience, you're not limited to the UK. You're not, even if you're not from the UK, limited to your home country.
Absolutely.
There are options to get that experience. So if you do have a question, do put it in the Q&A, or in the chat box, and we can have a look. Alternatively, you can email and ask questions directly if you don't want to ask questions today. I think regarding students' experience overseas, could you talk a little bit more about the kinds of opportunities maybe at graduate level? Because I do know some students might want to do an internship between their undergraduate studies and their postgraduate studies to get experience. Is that an option as well?
Of course, yeah, and we really use the word internship because we're not quite sure what other word to use, but think of them as really entry-level positions, or not that entry-level, depends really. We have people that are in their 40s, as we said, that clearly are not there to just observe and take notes, but really bring in their own know-how, experience, knowledge, technical or else. So think of them as just short-term, or rather short to mid-term experiences for foreigners, with the main goal of giving that opportunity to a foreigner to experience American professional culture and life. So you still need to go to a company that has someone that's a bit more qualified than you, of course, and that can show you, that can train you, that can be your manager. But yeah, you can apply to anything from your run-of-the-mill, very short-term, first professional experience ever type of internships to more advanced types of experiences. And yeah, of course, that if you're just taking say a gap year or something that's a bit equivalent to that between your what did you say, between your undergrad studies and
your postgraduate
and your postgrad, then of course this is open to you as well, with actually with both J1 intern or trainee, depends on your situation, visas. And we see that all the time. So feel free to just email us and we'll be happy to give you a few leads if we can. We sometimes also have companies that reach out to us to say, you know, I've hosted someone from X country with you guys before. I'd love to repeat the experience. If there's ever an offer that we have here at Parentes that sort of matches what your profile is all about, then of course we'll share that for free with you guys.
Yeah. I mean, these are really like limited contract. You know, you can think about them. You can think of them as jobs, really, but with the element of training. There have to be somebody more competent than the participant in the company that they're going to be working in. But you know, I mean, we have even the salaries that your past students got. You know, $4,000 a month. Obviously, they're not just entry level. They're not just, you know, so and the employer expects results. The only difference between a trainee or an intern visa and a real work permit is that with a work permit, you can do whatever you want. Once you have a work permit, you can be an engineering student and decide to go sell ice cream on the beach if you want to, and you can do that. With the intern trainee visas, you're not allowed to do that. You have to do something that has a direct correlation with your field and your level of studies. And there has to be the element of training. So we do need a training plan from the employer. But really, that's the only difference. And of course, it's limited in duration, whereas a work permit is much, you know, you can stay for years in the US. So it's not the same thing. But they are true professional experiences that you can have at any age once you're past 18.
And so we have one question asking us if you have to be in the UK at the time of making the application. So no, the application itself, because everything's online now, you can be anywhere in the world, including the US. You could be in the US as a tourist. That's fine. We can issue all the paperwork electronically, once again, no matter where you happen to be on Earth. The one requirement, however, and that's especially more true since September of this year, is that J1 visa applicants need to go to the U.S. Embassy in a country with which they have ties. So what I mean by that is you must be a citizen, passport holder of the country in which you're applying for your visa at the very end. So that's the last step of the process. Or be a foreign student that's currently studying and living with a visa or what do you call it, like titre de séjour, residency permit of some kind in that country. So say, for example, you're a British
like a
student
visa.
you're in South Korea for a semester. you have the choice of either going to the U.S. Embassy based in Seoul in South Korea or in London in the UK. Nowhere else, unfortunately. It used to be the case before where you could just go anywhere. We had people go to the US as tourists, just go quickly up to Canada, apply for the visa there, and then come back down to start the internship. That is no longer doable or feasible, sorry. So you will need to come back to the UK, assuming you're a UK national or living in the UK currently, Burma, and apply at the US Embassy in London.
And I think that answers the next question, which was, does the process work the same if you're not a British citizen? So
Correct.
If you're on a student visa, living in the UK, studying in the UK, you can apply via the US Embassy in London.
Absolutely. Just make sure you're bringing any sort of documentation or proof that you are legally in the United Kingdom for a reason and not just as a tourist. So your university certificate from Lancaster University, your student visa for the United Kingdom, and so on.
Or if you're at home during the holidays, do it from your home country as well. Yeah.
It's one or the other. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why the US is of interest to a lot of students. The culture of internships is so different in the UK, even compared to Europe, where internships are part and parcel of most student studies at all levels. Whereas in the UK, it's very much limited to attracting second-year students before they enter their final year of study. It's very limited in the opportunities they can apply for here in the UK. So having those more varied opportunities. Obviously, the US is much bigger, so you're going to have a much more diverse number of companies. It opens doors for you in your CV and being able to expand on your experience for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, we have. Oh, bear with me and see if we have. Is it common for candidates to receive longer term or permanent job offer visa sponsorship from their employer after completing their internship? So I think this is in reference to a H-1B visa.
Yeah, it does happen.
Yeah, it does happen. It's absolutely legal. Any foreign person going to the US on any visa has legally the right to switch status and apply for a different visa. Now, the US embassies abroad obviously don't want to hear that. So when you go apply for your J1 visa, if you tell them, listen, I'm interested, like I'm leaving on the J1 program, whatever, let's say for 12 months, 18 months. If everything goes well, I will legally apply for an H-1B visa and stay. The US Embassy will deny your J1 visa because they're going to say you already have the intention of staying longer than what the J1 visa allows you to. So please just forget the J1 visa and apply directly for an H-1B or apply directly for other visas that allow you to stay longer. Now, we don't want to hear about it. I mean, you can tell Parentis, but the sponsor, you should not tell the sponsor. I mean, basically do one thing at a time. So short answer to your question, yes, it is possible. And no, we don't want to hear about it. So don't tell us. You go on a J1 visa. If your employer wants to do all the paperwork afterwards to help you obtain an H-1B, you can do that with them. Don't call the sponsor and say that you've done that. Honestly, it's none of our business. So it complicates things. But yes, it is legally possible. But then it's up to you and the employer to do all the paperwork, go through all the administration processes and do that. Yeah,
it does happen, and we shouldn't say it that way. But a lot of people do use J1 visas just because of how easy and quick they are to obtain, as a means to go and prove to their employers that they are worth the investment of applying for a petition-based type of employment visa. So of course it does happen. Yeah.
But you should not be using the J1. I mean, if the only reason you're going on the J1 program is to switch to an H1B, that's not, I mean, you shouldn't do that because there's no guarantee.
Yeah,
it could happen or it could not happen. And also, especially right now with the Trump administration, they've really cut back on the number of H1Bs. So it is becoming a bit more difficult. But yes, it is possible. It does happen. Yeah.
I would say with the next question as well, there's two answers. So I've given one from the perspective of the student visa in the UK, which is about off-cycle internships. So in the UK, internships tend to happen during the summer, but we do know that they happen at other points during the year elsewhere in the world. If you were studying in the UK on your student visa, off-cycle internships are not an option because you are in the UK on your student visa and it's considered term time. You would be impacting your studies and you may get asked at the border questions why you're leaving during term time. So just be careful about that with visas and when visas are involved. If you're a home student, it's entirely up to you, but again, it will impact your studies. But if you are on a different program or you've just graduated, and you graduated in September, November, then I would assume, Alex, then there are off-cycle internships that students can take then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. From the US perspective, yeah, we have people leaving every single day of the year. And in fact, I would say that's one of the busiest seasons for us is March to early summer in terms of departures. So of course it's possible. The examples I showed you on the screenshots you saw on the screen, it's true, were a lot for the summer simply because there were big companies who typically way in advance have offers for the summer. And those internship dates are typically done for or tailored for American students. They're based on their time off during the summer break and so on. With that being said, it doesn't mean that that same company does not or will not be willing to host someone from abroad for a longer period of time or for dates that are a bit out of their out of the norm. So of course, yes, please do apply to anything you're interested in if that's feasible. Once again, with your university, of course. And we'll be happy to give you also some tips on how to find your internship. But yeah, we see offers for any day of the year, and I would recommend you put your available dates in the first paragraph of your cover letter so that employers can see that immediately, along with the fact that you'll be arriving with your own visa and sponsor, and that they don't need to do anything. So.
The last question, because we're going to run out of time, is, so do students go to the USA as a form of placement year in their third year? So at Lancaster, students who are doing their undergraduate studies study year 1, year 2, do their third year out in the world of work, and then come back and do their fourth year.
Okay. Then that's absolutely possible with a J1 intern visa as well. Yeah, for absolutely. Did you say they were sometimes doing that also for like an academic exchange program or not necessarily? No, it's only for professional motives that they would go for that third year. So yes, of course, they can definitely use the J1 visa for that. 100%. And the longer you're available, of course, the more desirable your profile is, especially if you have a little bit of prior work experience, and so on. And especially if you're already a bachelor's graduate, I'm assuming that would be the case if it's between the third and fourth year, right?
So those who do a placement year do a 4-year undergrad. So they wouldn't have been a graduate yet.
Sorry. Then
so they'll come back and do their final year. So it's like an extended program because they're including a year of experience in there as well.
Yeah, no, but it's still very, very much feasible. And once again, feel free to shoot us an email telling us what you're interested in. And generally speaking, we say that starting applying to opportunities 6 months in advance is plenty. I wouldn't do more than that. So 4 to 6 months is a good timeline for when you should start applying. Of course, you're free to look as early as today for next year, for example, but it would be too soon to apply for the US. You can just start maybe working on your resume, on your cover letter, maybe set up alerts on search engines to see what kind of offers are added on these websites and things like that. But don't start applying more than 6 months ahead of time. That's the one advice I can give you.
Yeah. And I would say from a placement perspective as well, when you're reaching out, placement years are a UK term. So when you're reaching out, please do clarify with potential employers, as well as parentheses, what your placement year entails. For us at Lancaster, it's 10 months full-time work experience. Now that can be broken into 2 6-month opportunities because a lot of students stay on at the employer for 13 months, for instance, as long as they're back in time for the start of their next academic year. Many students do more than the 10 months, and it can, as I said, we allow up to 2 opportunities, so 6 months in one employer, 6 months in another, but do clarify that with employers and with your sponsor when you're applying for the visa so that you know what your plan of action is.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. And when does your school year start? Generally, is it late September, early October?
So we will be moving to semesters. So we're looking at September next year. Usually it's October, but
Okay.
next year it'll be September. So
Oh, okay.
it'll move slightly differently, but that
Okay.
will,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, just out of curiosity. Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
So we'll be in line
Great.
with most other institutions. We're a little bit later than many other institutions. So yeah. But thank you so much for all the insight and information. I know it's a lot
Thank
to take in. A
you.
couple of people have been like, oh, it's loads. So we have recorded this. I've shared the link to our YouTube. I'm going to put it again in the chat. So we'll make this available within a week of airing any online sessions. We will put them on LinkedIn. So if you have any questions, though, in the meantime, do email Parentes and they will answer any questions.
Yeah.
I've worked with them for, I don't know, how long is it now?
I can't remember either.
I think it's over a decade now, easily
Yeah.
over a decade.
Yeah.
And
Easy,
feedback,
yeah.
there are other sponsors, but the feedback from Parenthis has been fantastic from students at my previous institution and at Lancaster. So you can shop around, but the information, the guidance, the support portal that with all the information is really good. So thank you so much both for your expertise today.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for attending. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Take
Have a
care
good
and
day.
good luck in your
Bye.
internship search. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.